Are you preparing the Batplane? The Justice League is being attacked. By whom? By me? Welcome to a new video on the NEGAYO People channel. I've been asked a lot about the latest shorts I've uploaded, where I talk about what happened with Batman. The Justice League discovered the secret of the contingency plans against them. I've responded to some of your questions in the comments. However, some people have corrected me, saying I'm confusing Ra's al Ghul with Vandal Savage, Kyle Rayner with Hal Jordan, and Wally West with Barry Allen, things like these. So today, in this video, we quickly cover all these stories to get rid of questions. I should clarify that this is based on the original comic book story, not the Justice League movie. Doom, made years later, was a loose adaptation of Tower of Babel. None of the villains from the animation appear in the comics. It's not about the same plans, nor does it end with Batman resigning, but being expelled. We'll quickly get into context with the situation and plans and immediately discuss what's coming. Then it's Batman trying to regain the trust of his team, and then the Justice League separating from their alter egos with no apparent logical reason. Why did Batman decide the plans were necessary? Because I am vengeance. To this day, many stories are known from the main Earth and alternate worlds, where the Justice League is manipulated for evil, whether by magic, technology, telepathic powers, or crossovers with other universes. The story deviates from the known version, portraying evil versions of the heroes. Call it the Crime Syndicate or Masters of Justice, among other names. But in that Tower of Babel story, where Batman's secret plans are revealed for the first time, he had a very specific motivation for carrying them out. Was it because of the Agamemnon case? This supervillain was an interplanetary conqueror who came to Earth and clashed with several enemies of the superhero team. In fact, he was the creator of the original Injustice League. He built a machine that swapped the minds of the heroes with those of the villains. And in this way, they committed all kinds of crimes, making people believe that the heroes simply turned evil. Overnight, Lex Luthor was Superman, Kronos was Atom, Black Manta was Aquaman, Catwoman was Black Canary, Dr. Light was Martian Manhunter, Mr. Element was Flash, Felix Faust was Green Arrow, and the Penguin was Batman. The miniseries Silver Age, launched in 2000, was part of Secret Files or stories set in the past. So technically, we're talking about a pre-crisis adventure, where Hal Jordan had not yet become Parallax, and Barry Allen had not yet died in the crisis on Infinite Earths. Later, the lineup changed. Wally West became Flash, and Kyle Rayner and Patrick O'Brien joined. One day, Talia al Ghul and the League of Assassins began strategically attacking them. Right at their weak points, Batman was distracted when his parents' coffins were stolen. Martian Manhunter's skin turned into magnesium due to a nanobot plague, causing him to catch fire. Upon coming into contact with the air, Aquaman was sprayed with fear toxin, which caused him to develop a phobia of water. Plastic Man was frozen and shattered, while Kyle Rayner lost his sight. Flash and Wonder Woman were attacked while searching for him at his apartment. Diana's warrior nature was used against her by trapping her in a dream where she faced an enemy of her caliber. The combat would last until the Amazon's heart could withstand it. Flash vibrated his molecules to avoid a projectile, but this device was designed to get trapped inside him. So by sticking to his spinal column, it caused him epileptic seizures at the speed of light. Finally, Superman was stopped with a sample of mutated kryptonite that made his skin fade away. It also disrupted all his powers, and although this rock was not lethal, it caused him such pain that death would be a relief. Batman soon discovered that Ra's al Ghul was behind the theft of his parents' coffins, realizing it was all a distraction. And indeed, the demon told him what was happening with his companions. Talia had stolen the secret plans containing the League's weaknesses. Ra's had activated sound frequency waves that affected the human brain, making communication impossible by preventing written and verbal comprehension. This impacted not only the superheroes, but nearly led the entire world to the brink of nuclear war. Luckily, the contingency measures did not have 100% of the superheroes' data. Like John Jones's ability to regenerate his damaged cells or Aquaman's great courage to overcome the fear toxin. Even Plastic Man was vital in rescuing Wonder Woman, even when the team was dismayed to discover that Batman had secretly studied them. Diana was very wise in saying that they didn't need to be smarter than the Bat to deal with this situation. They just had to do what he was not capable of, listen to each other. They discovered that Kyle was being victimized by his own ring. He previously stated he never slept with the artifact, fearing it might activate due to a nightmare. But when they found him in his apartment, he said that he woke up with the ring on. This means that someone hypnotized him by whispering while he was asleep, and when they put the lantern ring on him, it carried out its order. All he had to do was convince himself that his sight was working. Even with his powers at the limit, Superman was able to remove that device attached to Wally's spine. Batman soon contacted them after locating Razor's tower, which was emitting the sound waves. It was the first time the team of heroes thought twice before responding to a call from one of their own. They thought it could be another trap. Superman was the one who took the risk, even though he didn't speak a word to Batman. In fact, no one on the team did for a while, and they focused on fighting the League of Assassins and destroying the tower. Batman didn't justify himself adequately to his furious teammates, but he mentioned that after what happened with Agamemnon, he thought it necessary to be prepared for another situation of that nature. In the end, Ray escaped, the world returned to normal, but there was still a discussion pending in the Justice League. Was Batman right to secretly study his teammates, or did he deserve expulsion after betraying the team's trust? As Batman waited for the hero's verdict, Superman spoke first, saying that it was true they were very powerful, but that did not free them from manipulation and people losing trust in them. Aquaman mentioned that having saved the world on multiple occasions, they had earned the Earth's trust, or at the very least, team trust. He voted against the Bat-Flash. Wally West was not yet part of the League when the Agamemnon incident happened. So he mentions that he remembers people being scared when it seemed like the team had become corrupt. He was angry, but he still supported Batman. Martian Manhunter admitted he was unsure who to trust when he first came to Earth. He also studied the heroes, looking for their weaknesses, but only in case he needed to defend himself. He never designed plans or traps. And yet to this day he was ashamed and could not forgive himself for having thought that way back then. Though upset, he admitted voting against would be hypocritical. Though Kyle wanted to withhold his decision as the newest member, his team insisted he was as important as everyone else. He remembered that the lantern ring was given to him by chance. He thought that it could also fall into the wrong hands, so perhaps an effective way to stop such a weapon was necessary. For Diana, trust was paramount within the League, as one's decision meant life or death for the rest. She understood that humans needed to feel safe from beings as strong as her or Superman, but she couldn't fight alongside someone who was studying her in secret. She knew Batman wanted the plans kept safe, only to be used in emergencies. But perhaps the right thing would have been to tell her teammates about these measures without going into details. She voted to expel Batman, as did Plastic Man, who spoke harshly. Superman, the closest to a friend for Batman, had the decisive vote. And as a result of that friendship, Batman knew what his stance would be. He had left even before the Kryptonian knew it for sure. The League had more adventures, with Batman being a recurring topic. The mistrust had increased among them to the point of putting their lives at risk. It was a poison spreading among the team and Superman. He had to act for the sake of his teammates and the planet. So tell me, was it right what Batman did studying the weaknesses of his teammates? I don't know, you tell me. Should he have notified them about the contingency measures? I'm not sure. Would the League have accepted the existence of these plans if the issue had been properly addressed? I don't know. Well, these questions are indeed answered in a conversation between these two. In the conversation with Batman about the Justice League situation, several very interesting things are revealed. Well, interesting to me, but I really like these kinds of details. The first thing is that Batman was, let's say, hurt by Superman's decision to expel him, and the Kryptonian did know that there were measures against him. He asked his friend for and delivered the kryptonite sample that Batman experimented with until it mutated. In other words, Clark voted for the expulsion of the Bat, but not for having been attacked, but for the secret investigation against the other members. Superman also mentions that notifying the others about the plan's existence without details wouldn't have impacted their effectiveness. The team would have understood if it had been properly discussed. Batman's silence admitted this was true. After all, the Bat thought things through, that it was necessary for the Justice League to remain active and in full trust. So Superman called everyone, revealing the location of the Batcave, a place where not everyone had been before. Bruce Wayne was here, leaving his identity exposed, surprising everyone. Even Superman nervously introduced himself as Clark Kent. The team was impressed. Green Lantern, for example, had never even thought that the most powerful man in the world would have a job. No more secrets, that was the intention. And in this way, Wally West, Kyle Rayner, John Jones, and Patrick O'Brien also revealed their identities. Aquaman was the most irritated during the Tower of Babel incident, but he supported reintegrating Bruce into the team. However, just as he was welcoming him back, something strange happened. And that is, the Batmobile arrived at the cave with Batman on board. The Justice League was called by the Bat, notifying that Bruce Wayne and unknown individuals were in the lair, making the matter even stranger. Everyone had doubles, except for Aquaman and Wonder Woman, who, unlike the rest, did not have alter egos. Suddenly, Wally West and Kyle Rayner lost their rings, and Superman was not in his suit. They did all kinds of tests to find out who was telling the truth and who could be an imposter, but they were all themselves. They realized that whatever was happening to them was progressing over time, since Clark completely lost his powers and his Kryptonian side, simply becoming Clark Kent. Strange things were happening all over the world, and until they figured out the cause, everyone just went on with their lives. As time passed, Diana and Arthur observed changes in the attitudes of their companions. Batman grew quieter, Superman more commanding, and Flash constantly distracted by other issues. And without stopping, Martian Manhunter was slowly returning to his original Martian form. Plastic Man loved cracking jokes, while Green Lantern was a bit more aggressive. This became more evident in the team's following missions. The heroes' civilian identities behaved differently. Wally was very carefree. John suddenly went blind and suffered a car accident. Bruce Wayne was that extravagant millionaire who no longer needed to hide anything, but he had fits of rage that he couldn't channel properly. Kyle Rayner began to fall into depression. Clark Kent was happy to stay present for his wife Lois, and no longer have to lie about his sudden disappearances at work. And did Patrick Bueno feel that need to return to crime, like before he was a superhero? And so did the Justice League. Now he was working full-time and they were handling multiple very strange cases around the world, which defied all kinds of laws, probabilities, and even reality itself. It seemed that these events were related to each other and to his own case, but they still couldn't find the cause. And that priority of returning to normal was no longer his most important mission. Arthur visited John in the hospital, telling him he initially felt blind and deaf after losing his powers, but had now adapted. He felt no pain as the last of his kind and forgot his family. Flash arrived at the hospital room with a makeover, finally happy. Historically, he was supposed to have kept his deceased uncle's suit to honor him as a hero, but when Arthur questioned him, he didn't seem to care about his memory. Before leaving, John asked Arthur to prevent the League from returning everyone to normal. Rex Mason, the shapeshifter, had somehow returned to look for his family. During the fight, two strange beings appeared, helping the heroes to contain the situation. They said that a force from their dimension had escaped to Earth, granting people's wishes and ambitions. After managing to contain this case, extremely traumatic for Rex's son, who had wished for his father to return, the Justice League took these beings to the Watchtower to demand more explanations. This kind of energy, called information technology, had leaked from their extra-dimensional dimension to our planet. As previously mentioned, the information technology was hidden in desires and ambitions. Superman first encountered this energy while talking to Batman. Just at the moment when he wished that both he and his companions didn't have secret identities to protect. Even though he didn't literally say it at the moment, inside him, that desire was so strong that the information technology first affected the League. These scientists, who called themselves catexis, also explained that this sensitive energy was capable of restructuring matter and they couldn't stop it alone. The indifference, the carelessness, and being extremely relaxed caused problems in Wally and Linda's marriage. Their last fight was observed from a distance. Suddenly, Patrick O'Brien, who until recently was just Plastic Man, appeared in John Jones's hospital room. Sarcastically, he was happy for his companion, who had been freed from the memory of his dead family. When John asked him what he wanted, Patrick said he was looking to reclaim his soul. Since he stopped being Plastic Man, that criminal part of the past began to return. When he was a killer, the desire to return to that was intensifying more and more and he couldn't help it. He needed to undo what had happened, to become a hero again, but John simply denied him the help. Diana and Arthur had now confirmed that their companions had drastically changed. Green Lantern was acting like a living weapon, and Batman simply stopped uttering any words. It seemed that he also lacked the speed and strength to fight, and when Arthur took off his mask, he didn't even have a face. In Gotham City, while Bruce was accompanied by his date, a robber took them by surprise. The millionaire tried to defend himself, but a single blow was enough to make him bleed and fall. Even though he kept getting up, it was of no use. What did it feel like? To be helpless? To lose control? To be just a furious animal? It was hell. According to Patrick, Bruce didn't understand what was happening to him, where his fighting techniques had gone, but O'Brien knew the answer. The Wayne's killer created Batman that night in Crime Alley. The Dark Knight was driven by that memory, but when Bruce and Batman separated, that pain remained only within the millionaire. They needed to return to normal, and Patrick had already taken care of gathering the whole group to find a solution. Even John, witnessing this, was convinced that they had to act. Thanks to the technology of the Catexes, the Justice League had managed to capture the synergy. Unfortunately, the heroes were betrayed. Bringing the identification to Earth was not an accident. The team of former superheroes led by Patrick knew they couldn't do much in the blast zone, but they had to do what they could. They attacked the Catexes and took their technology to reverse the identification energy from Superman's mind that caused the separation. However, the result was not what they expected. They tried to reach the contained energy while still fighting against themselves, but the enemies wouldn't allow it. They stopped them by modifying the reality around them. Even when Wonder Woman tried to confront them, the Catexes did manage to divide her. Diana's soul was left out of her clay form. The hexadimensional beings left. They overlooked that this was part of Wonder Woman's plan, who saved her companions with her strength and essence. Despite lacking physical form, she helped her companions see reason and cease their infighting. And in this way, everyone returned to normal. Immediately, Flash entered the energy center to use it against the Catexes. They went from being hexadimensional creatures to three-dimensional doubles. The entire league joined telepathically and used Elite to wish that all knowledge to recreate it would be eliminated forever, in addition to the energy destroying itself. Everything returned to normal. In a way, we could even say that Plastic Man was congratulated by Batman, very much in his own way. The leaves of the heroes returned to balance, and everyone lived more or less happily until the next crisis. The end. And this was the story of how, because of a forgotten interplanetary conqueror and a suspicious man who dresses as a bat at night, the Justice League had to fight against Martians from the 6th dimension and their wish machine. Yes, the truth is that the team has had all kinds of adventures against enemies of all kinds, which to this day we have not seen. In fact, I believe these creatures have not reappeared in comics and have not been adapted to any medium. Some may find these adventures ridiculous or unrealistic now that many people are looking for everything to be realistic. But at least I do like these types of stories. Good or bad, they are the ones that have contributed interesting concepts and have paved the way for excellent stories. Plastic Man's presence can still be seen today in animated series, live-action video games, and even on the big screen. As for the adaptation of Tower of Babel in Justice League Doom, you will have noticed that there are many differences between stories in the animation. Nothing persists with Batman's resignation. I hope this video has cleared up your doubts, as many of you were asking for this information. I remind you that you help the channel a lot by using the NEGAYOBAJO code in the Epic Store. We reached the 100% goal and used the funds to finance a mini-tournament, resulting in several winners. I would like to do this type of dynamics more often and with more people, so stay tuned so you can participate. Once we reach the goal, I'll inform you so you can sign up for another tournament. Remember to leave a like, comments, opinions, a super thanks, suggestions or threats. 5 grand if you've got extra cash. If you enjoyed the video, please share it to support me in the ongoing struggle against YouTube's algorithm. Until next time. Thanks for stopping by everyone. I'm Alex from the NEGAYO channel. See you next time.